Hey guys, so you are seeing a very up close and personal um, view of my face right now. Woo! I should do like the INFJ stare. Um, Anyways, this video has been requested by a few people because I just put out like an INTJ video 2 days ago. But basically, people want to know the difference between INTJs and INFJs. So I will take a stab at it and see where it goes. And this video is not going to be edited, so I apologize in advance if there's any type of, I guess, pausing. But it works because that's an I, in my opinion. Okay, so I will just start by talking about both of these types cognitively in regards to Myers-Briggs terms. So if we look at both of the stacks, INFJs, their stack is introverted intuition, NI, as their primary function. Their secondary function is extroverted feeling, FE. Their tertiary function is introverted thinking, TI, and their fourth function is extroverted sensing, SE. And then INTJs, they also lead with introverted intuition. Their auxiliary or secondary function is extroverted thinking. Their tertiary function is introverted feeling, FI, and their final function, again like INFJs, is extroverted sensing. So both of these types lead with introverted intuition, and their last function, again in MBTI, is extroverted sensing. So starting off, they both are very intuitive people. They are two of the rarest types. INFJ is the rarest. I don't know what the statistic is off the top of my head. And then followed by INTJ. So basically, INFJ, at least in those statistical narratives, is the rarest, and INTJ is the second rarest. So that being said, those are the only types that have introverted intuition as their first function. Now, as compared to extroverted intuition, the majority of the population, at least from what I've seen, at least values extroverted intuition. They may not lead with extroverted intuition, but they value it. Whereas, like, a lot less people value or lead with introverted intuition. So that's already kind of where the misunderstanding starts. And introverted intuition is very focused on the future. It's very driven. I see it as like having blinders on and being almost in a tunnel. I see it as like this tunnel that you're in, and you just kind of go into this thought, and it just leads and leads and leads. And both INTJs and INFJs are kind of known for being like psychic in some ways, but I think INFJs have more of that stereotype than INTJs, even though INTJs are very good at predicting the future. And I think why there's a bit of a difference there is, like I said before, INTJs, their second function is extroverted thinking. Extroverted thinking is driven by logic. It's driven by hard, cold facts. And these facts for me, it can be a little bit difficult trying to describe extroverted thinking, but it's basically what is. So whatever the weight is of my dog, for example. So let's say my dog weighs 8 pounds. That's extroverted thinking. That's what it is. This light bulb over here is made of whatever material. That's it. That's what the fact is. And INFJs, extroverted feeling is their secondary function. And extroverted feeling is driven by people. That is basically, you go into a room and you're able to feel the feelings of other people. It's not individual in its approach, it's very collective. It can be individual because if it's really directed, but mostly it's kind of like a group thought type of thing. You go into an environment and you're feeling like maybe some people are sad, some people are happy, some people are excited, whatever that looks like. And the extroverted feeler, or the INFJ, would be able to feel those emotions of those people as a collective. And that's why, like, it's way more important for INFJs to have, like, a similar feeling in a room. Whereas for INTJs, they don't really care about that. They don't really care because their tertiary function is introverted feeling, which is very concerned with their own feelings and individuals' feelings. And our tertiary function as INFJs is introverted thinking. Introverted thinking is different than extroverted thinking because introverted thinking, as with extroverted thinking being an objective function, all of the extroverted functions are objective. Introverted thinking is a subjective function. So, much like NI, it isn't something, TI isn't necessarily, like, you can discover it by thinking logically about something, but it's more of what makes up the structure rather than the structure itself. TE is the structure, that's what it is, and then TI is but how, but why, what's, what are the wirings behind it, how does this happen, all of those things. And this looks a little bit different in an INFJ, and I see this in ENFJs as well. INFJs have a tendency to be conspiracy theorists, and they will go off on little tangents where they will see something with their NI vision, and INTJs can do this too, but it's way more logical than INFJs typically, or at least on the surface outwardly. But with INFJs, they'll see something like, for example, when I was a couple of years ago, there was a group of people, and on the surface, anybody else, unless you were in tune with that and you were an INFJ or whatever other type that was very in tune with that situation, you would not even think that there was anything wrong. You would just think, oh, these are a group of people, they're great, whatever, kind of neutral maybe. But I saw certain things, little micro expressions in people, little things that I felt like were there, but really they probably weren't. Like, if you saw the same situation, you probably would be like, oh, this is just normal, whatever. But as an INFJ, and I think a lot of INFJs can relate to this, we see these little patterns, these little details in people or things that are going on, and then we jump on them. And that jumps into introverted thinking. We go into like these crazy cycles where it can almost go into an NITI loop because we're kind of all like thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and coming into our heads. And INTJs also do that in a different way. INTJs get in their head as well, but a lot of that is driven by emotion and introverted feeling. And it's not saying that INTJs are like these very emotional people, because certainly they are not outwardly, especially. You would probably not see so much emotion from an INTJ, especially if you are an acquaintance. And if you do see emotion from an INTJ, it's probably a fake emotion. And this is what I mean by that is, sorry that this is a little scattered, hopefully you guys can follow. INTJs, I have found, are very good at showing people what they want to see. INTJs, at least INTJ females especially, because I have two best friends that are INTJs, and I've seen this with them, and I've also seen it with other acquaintances and friends along my life. But basically, they're very good at presenting themselves as happier than they are, and they're able to kind of form to society standards of what a acceptable person should be. What emotion should I have in this situation? And that's because of introverted feeling. Whereas INFJs just naturally have like this emotion for certain things, and INFJs are most certainly not able to necessarily tap into what that emotion is, because they just are not in tune with their own emotions all the time. INTJs, again, it's not their stronger thing, but they still are able to tap into what those emotions are, and it's in a strategic way. So like in a situation where they need to present themselves as this like happy person, for example, I know quite a few INTJs that have worked at Chick-fil-A, and working at Chick-fil-A, you have to have a certain exterior mode. You have to be able to be happy, you have to smile, you have to do all these things. And I've even seen with INTJs, and maybe they've rehearsed it enough that it isn't fake. And I say rehearsed, maybe it isn't rehearsed. This is just something that I've noticed, and I'm not trying to, like, I love INTJs, I love INFJs, but it's just something I have noticed that maybe isn't even a thing, but I have noticed it with all of the INTJ, at least females that I know. And I don't really see it as much in the INTJ males, but with INTJ females, I see they will do this laugh, and it's a very exaggerated laugh, and they'll do it in social situations because they don't really, or maybe with like just people in general, like, because it doesn't seem like a very natural laugh, but maybe it is. They'll kind of over exaggerate the laugh and kind of tilt their head back and like ha 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 ha, like almost like that was really stupid, but it's just something I've noticed, like almost it seems kind of forced, and maybe it isn't, maybe it's not. But for me as an INFJ, I know how to, like, I think INFJs naturally know what to do in situations, especially emotionally, even though we're not necessarily tuned into with that. But I typically do not fake laugh at things. Again, maybe it's not a fake laugh. And also, I think with INFJs, it's much easier to see what they're thinking than INTJs. Even though we both have kind of this deadpan stare to us, especially when we're thinking and we're in our NI head. With INTJs, I feel like they can gauge how their emotions look a lot better than an INFJ. As an INFJ, I find myself, I can do the kind of bitch face deadpan thing, and I definitely do, and that's not like me trying to be mean or something. But if I'm talking to someone and someone says something that I like or dislike, I find that my eyes will kind of give me away. Whereas I don't think INTJs do that as much. Their eyes are a lot more controlled in that way. Like, they may still do the toggle thing, but they're not going to necessarily show that they like something or dislike something. Even though INFJs try not to give away their emotions, I find with my friends especially, where I'm a little less on my guard, if I'm talking, like, for example, my friend Chaz, who's been on this channel, he typed as in ENFJ. I believe that he could be, but I'm not 100% sure about that. He always makes fun of me because I make all of these expressions like that I don't even know that I'm making. When I'll like react to something, I'll be like, ugh, like, and that's kind of interesting because it can be a kind of a subtle thing for a lot of people to miss. Because again, both INTJs and INFJs have this like ability to have like this deadpan look, and this is kind of just a natural look. This is like, you know, resting bitch face was probably based off an INTJ or an INFJ, or maybe both. But we do have certain differences about us. And another thing that's very interesting, and I really want to hear what you guys think as INTJs especially, and INFJs, but INTJs are told that they are cold, like heartless people, that, you know, they're kind of known in, when you get into personality theory, there's a lot of stereotypes that you'll find, especially looking online, because there's a lot of things on INTJs or INFJs and stuff. And INTJs get this bad reputation, and it just, to me, I do believe that INTJs are cold in some ways, especially on the exterior. I was actually at this meetup trying to explain this because I was trying to help people understand cognitive functions and personality theory, and I was talking about INTJs versus INFJs actually in that meeting. And I was saying that INTJs have this very cold exterior because of NI and TE. You know, they're kind of seen as almost robotic. And in many ways, they are in some ways, because they're very good at focusing, they're very good at getting things done and getting them done efficiently and with precision. And so people often just kind of forget about the fact that they also have an emotional side. And INTJs have this emotional side because of introverted feeling. And introverted feeling, again, is very focused on your own emotions and what you want. And this makes for a very individual person. But also, they have this burning passion within them. They may seem like this cold, robotic character on the outside, but within them, especially with the people that they love, and the people that really get into their heart, and the people that, you know, withstand the test of time, they're going to show that side of them. And you're going to see that because they do have a lot of love to give, and they are emotional creatures on the inside. Especially in an unhealthy state, if they go into NIFI, I find that this is often triggered by relationship suffering, or if they find that someone is not reciprocating, like if they really are into someone and that person rejects them. I do find that that can trigger that NIFI state. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's just something that I've seen from INTJs in passing, or, you know, close proximity associates, as they say in Parks and Recreation. But anyways, I don't know if you guys got that little bit, but yeah, this video is getting kind of long. I will try to wrap it up a little bit. So with INFJs are warm on the outside because of extroverted feeling, and, you know, they are seen as the people that you talk to about your feelings and tell them about your issues and stuff, whereas INTJs definitely don't give off that vibe, and they're not going to, because they're not going to do that because they don't care. And again, they care about some people, but they're not going to try to, you know, fake a friendship or like really be concerned with that kind of stuff unless it's benefiting them or they care about that person. But with INFJs, at least seemingly on the surface, people will come to them for their problems, for their issues, all of those things, and INFJs will gladly give out their advice, their comfort, their sympathies. But at the same time, INFJs on the inside have that introverted thinking. It's, again, a different type of logic than extroverted thinking, but it's very calculating in its nature as well, very strategic. So INFJs can kind of surprise people, just like INTJs. INTJs are walking contradictions. INFJs are also walking contradictions, whereas the INTJ is an idealist, but also a very cynical person in many regards. An INFJ is idealistic, and has this kind of I don't think this makes sense, but like throwing caution to the wind, I don't think that's really what I mean. It's basically INFJs have this ability to separate themselves from their vision. And this can be good and bad. You see this with a lot of not so good people in history. I'm not going to say their names in this video, but if you look up famous INFJs, you can get what I mean. They have more of a cold interior, whereas their exterior is a lot warmer. And this can be very confusing for people, because just like the INTJ, the INFJ will also come off cold, whereas you get closer to an INTJ and they start off really cold, but if you get really close to them, very close to them, to the point that they trust you and they care about you, you're going to see this cold, dark chocolate melt into like this luscious, ooey gooey, creamy center. I don't know if that really was the best analogy, but whatever. Whereas the INFJ may come across as like this fluffy marshmallow, but on the inside is like a jawbreaker. It's going to be a bit surprising for them. So I will end this with extroverted sensing. Now, INFJs and INTJs both have extroverted sensing as their final function in MBTI. This is stuff that we struggle with. Now, for both INFJs and INTJs, it can be hard to get out of our heads and actually do things. But I do find that for INTJs, when they get into a groove, when they're a psychologically healthy INTJ, they're able to structure their life and have extroverted sensing as an asset or something that they're working for. They're not ever going to be like the best at extroverted sensing, but they find a way to make it work for them. And this could be going to the gym. This could be, doing activities like, I see INTJs that are interested in cars or motorcycles or things that will really engage them with the physical world. Getting involved in sports, and even maybe some artistic hobbies as well. And for INFJs, this typically does come from more of the artistic qualities of going out and doing things. Both INTJs and INFJs have a very kind of two extremes to them. I would say even more so for INFJs. INFJs can be seen as kind of like this very elusive figure, but they can also be like a very adventurous and do very kind of off the wall things like breaking into a building or going skydiving just because. I don't know how helpful this video will be for people, but hopefully it was helpful, and hopefully you guys get a few insights. I definitely want to make more videos. I actually really want to talk about Socionics in relating to this pair, because in Socionics, for those of you that don't know, the introverts, their final functions are flipped. So in Socionics, you would be an INTP if you're an INTJ, or an ILI, intuitive, logical introvert. And for INFJs, they would be an INFp in Socionics, which is IEI, intuitive, ethical introvert. And this pair is considered a comparative pair, which I see as two, basically they regard each other as equals psychologically, even though they have different strengths, which is very interesting. And again, the P and the J are flipped in Myers-Briggs and Socionics because whereas in Myers-Briggs, they take into account the first extroverted function, and for INTJs and INFJs, that is a judging function. In Socionics, it goes into the first primary function, the primary function, which is both a perceiving function for both INFJs and INTJs, because it is introverted intuition, and that is a perceiving function. So yeah, have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.